Very good.
Last week you asked me why you're not.
Your camera is closed.
I can't see you because it was mute and I couldn't change it.
Okay.
So I tried to use sign language. I don't know if you got it.
There's a famous verse.
Rabbi, your camera is closed.
What is that?
Your camera.
My camera is closed.
Mhm.
Okay, 1 second. Oh, sorry. Good evening, everyone. So we are starting this week's Parsha is Parsha's Vayeshev. Parsha's Vayeshev is known for the story of Yosef being taken by the brothers, wanting to kill him, changing their mind to throw him into a pit, and eventually selling him to the Egyptians. It's important to have dinner. It's important to eat lunch. It's important to eat breakfast. I learned that this week from a book over here. The name of the book is called Yesod Tzaddik. This is insights of one of the Hasidic masters, the Rabbi of Zvil. And he makes the following observation. He says, when the brothers see Yosef from afar, they say, let's go, ve'ato lechu v'na'argeyu. Let's go kill him. V'nashlicheyu be'achad ha'boiros. We're going to throw him into one of the pits, ve'omarnu, and then we're going to say, chayo ro acholoso. And there was a wild beast who devoured him. Reuven says, no. Why should we kill him? Let's throw him into the pit without killing him. Yosef comes, they throw him into the pit. And then, it says in the verse, Vayikochu 24, it says, they took him, Vayashlichu esaya boiron, they cast him into the pit. Vayeshvu le'echol lechem, they said unto eat a meal. They said unto eat a meal. And then they see that, behold, there is a whole caravan of Arabs was coming from Gilad, with camels. So Yehuda says, why should we kill him? Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites, to those Arabs. The Rebbe of Zvil says, you see what happened? Before they ate, ready to kill him, throw him into the pit. Once they calmed down, they relaxed, they ate a meal, now they're ready to consider selling him to some merchants without eagerness, without being so, aggressive in killing and throwing. That's the importance of eating. So you have to make a decision, sit down and eat first. Make sure you don't make decisions on an empty stomach.
Agreed. 100%.
And your husband comes.
Exactly. The husband comes home, he didn't eat the whole day, and the wife starts bombarding him with decisions to be made. Or the opposite. Hold on, let him first eat, and then after a meal, you're going to be able to open a whole new type of conversation. Anyway, but I want to speak tonight. It's actually something which has to do also with Hanukkah, because next Wednesday we are not going to have class Hanukkah. First of all, you can celebrate Hanukkah. Also, I'm going to be away for a day, and I'm going to come back Wednesday night.
Wedding.
My brother is having a wedding, exactly. My brother Amram is marrying his son. Thank you. So I'm going to go to New York for 2 days for the wedding and come back.
Los Angeles.
The Kali is from New York. Anyway, there's a famous verse. The verse is in the prophet Isaiah, chapter 30, verse 20. The prophet says, Ve'ayu einecha ro'ot et morecha. Your eyes shall be seeing his masters, his teachers. And the simple understanding of this verse, this is one of Isaiah's prophecies for the future redemption, when we are going to see the appearance of God, who is our teacher. But many commentaries in the Midrash, it also mentions the idea that you should see your teacher. It's not enough just to learn from him. It's important to see the face of your teacher while you learn from him. To see your teacher. We all know in Chabad, the picture of a Rebbe is everywhere, right? Even in the library. They have a picture. They say that once a businessman came into a Chabad and he met the Chabad Shliach, the rabbi, the Chassid, and he says, what is it? Every Chabad as I go, everyone, everywhere puts a picture of the Rebbe. What's this the importance of displaying the Rebbe's picture? The Chassid asks him, tell me, do you have a mirror in your house? He said, I have a few mirrors. I have a mirror in my bedroom. I have a mirror in my living room before I even enter to the house. I have 2 mirrors in my bathroom. And why do you have so many mirrors? So he said, because when you look in the mirror, I can see how I appear, how I look, coming in of the house, coming out of the house. It secures my appearance. So the Chassid says, the mirror that you look into and you see yourself tells you how you look now in the present. When you look at the Rebbe's picture, you know how you should look in the future. How should you look? When you look at the Rebbe's picture, it's a call for inspiration, for motivation. It's a picture, like many people have pictures of their ancestors in their house, some have their parents, their father, their mother. And there are people even who can make decisions, or before making an important decision, will stand next to the picture of their father or mother or grandfather and making and thinking to themselves, what would my father say to do in such a case? What would my mother say to do in such a case? What would they do? And what they did and how they would do, lucky is those parents, they made such an impression that you can turn back even after they're not around, and you are able to look at their picture and to say, what would they do? How would they do it? And that directs you in your life. I always speak about Mr. Weiss. Mr. Weiss was granted a big gift after the Rebbe passed away, of a huge picture of the Rebbe. Big picture. Bigger than this, bigger than we have in the front. A real big picture, which he was given by somebody in California, in Los Angeles. And it was hanging at the entrance to his house, walking up towards his upstairs bedroom. And I remember many times seeing him there at night before walking up to sleep, giving a whole report to the picture, communicating. Here we have over here Abraham Abramo. I don't know if any of you had the privilege to be in his parents' house, apartment. I was there many times in Cascadian. The walls, there was no spot in the wall that you could see wall. Everything was loaded with pictures of this Zayda and that grandmother and that father and mother and my wife's parents and my parents and my grandparents. And anytime I came into the house, it doesn't matter if I was there 6 months earlier, and I got the same tour. Yeah. Avraham, Eta Michal, Eta this and Eta that. And you saw pictures, people, beards, without beards, with which just sitting there was an inspiration. You know, you looked around, anywhere you looked, there were people that were calling for action, were calling or were presenting expectations. What are you doing with your life? It's very difficult to behave not appropriately when so many eyes are looking out. And this is not just eyes, this is eyes like in Afghanistan, Samarkand, they have those very strong eyes, some of them holding swords in their hand for some type of celebration. I don't even remember all that, but who took all those pictures? You have it? Oh. And the kids knew growing up, they had a size, they had a name, they had a year of birth, a year of passing. People. This week's Parsha, we're learning about a picture, an image who actually saved Yaakov Avinu. I'm sorry, who saved Yosef Atzad. In the Parsha, in chapter 39, there's the famous story of Yosef making his way to Egypt. As chapter 39, verse 1 begins. Vayeshev urad Mitzrayim, on page 242, Yosef had been brought down to Egypt. Vayikneu Potifar Srif Paro Sarat Abochim Ish Mitzri Miyada Ishmaelim. And Potiphar, Pharaoh's officer, chief of the butchers, a native Egyptian, purchased him from the Arabs. Asher Yiridu Shamo, who had brought him down there. And now is he in the house of this man called Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. And as the Torah identifies Yosef as a Ish Matzliach, God was with him, and he was a very successful man. And he made him in charge on the entire household. The house was blessed because of Yosef. Everything in the house and everything in the field. To the point, as verse 6 says, he left everything he had to Joseph's hand. And he didn't care to know about anything of this, except the only thing is, what am I getting for supper? Alechem asher roich. What am I getting for dinner? What am I getting for breakfast? Anything else, he couldn't care less. But the Torah also tells us that Yosef was a very handsome young man, handsome features, and a beautiful appearance. They translate a beautiful complexion. And he himself was very aware of his unusual beauty. And at that point, it is the wife of Potiphar who is lifting up her eyes towards Yosef. I can imagine how Potiphar, this head butcher, looked like. Who knows? But
like a head butcher.
Like a head butcher. Nobody wherever he looked, but Yosef definitely looks much better than him. And without any consideration, she tells him two words: "Vatoima shichva imi," sleep with me. And the respondent Yosef says, the Torah tells us, Vayemo'en, but he refused. There's a Hasidic insight by the great Rabbi Pshischa. He says that the every word in the Torah has connotations. It's called trup. And the trup of the word Vayemo'en, in the refuse, is a very unusual trup called shalshelet. And the way you read it, you're not going to have to, you can remind me all kinds of connotations I'm missing. But that one I will remember probably. It goes like this. It's called shalshelet. It's like a chain. Very special. The Buddha Pshischa said that the Torah tells us how do you refuse something like that. You don't just say no. You say no. you make it a very obvious no. No. Then she understands that you are very clear with your refusal. Vayemoin. And he tells her. Vayomer, he explains it even. It's interesting. First he says no, and then he explains it. It's also an important observation on Bat Yosef, how he responds to it. First is Vayemoin. I'm not talking to you. First is no. Now Vayomer. Then he says to you, how are you going to do it to your master? Trusting him with everything. How can I sin to him? How can I sin to God? But she kept on going. Day after day, says the Torah in verse 10. And he would not listen. Until the one day that he came home and there was no one there. And as the story goes, she grabbed him by his clothes, saying, "Sleep with me." Yosef dashed off his clothes in his hands, and he ran outside. And then is when she decided to make a whole commotion about it. The guy came, he tried to rape me, tried to be with me, to seduce me. And then I finally started screaming. He ran and he left a garment by me. And the master listened to him and he was taken to jail. And then we have the story after Yosef being in jail, which obviously ends up being the very famous story which leads eventually Yosef to greatness. This is the story. The question which we have in this story is, first of all, a very important question. How was Yosef allowed to refuse? What do you mean allowed to refuse? I'm talking from an halachic perspective. Halachic perspective. You put yourself in danger. So first of all, even if it was a mitzvah for him not to live with fear, there's a very big discussion, which many opinions are holding, that a Noachide does not need to give up his life in order to keep his mitzvahs. Not like a Jew who has to give up his life for idol worship and adultery or murder. A Noachide is not necessarily required to do it. Not only that, if he's not, he's actually forbidden to do it. It's like, for him, it might be considered a possible suicide act. And a Noachide is also obligated to prevent himself from dying on his own account. It says in the beginning of Bereshit, "Ve'ach erdimchem lenafshesechem edroish." God says, "I am seeking the blood that you spill from your soul." So Rashi says, and the Rambam rules it la'alocha, that just like a nazar to take someone else's blood, spilling someone else's blood, the Torah real specifically says, "Dimchem lenafshotichem," the bloods of your own soul. This is the source for the prohibition to commit suicide. This is the source, the biblical source. And this applies to Noachites too. So if a Noachite is not required to allow himself die, not to violate one of his commandments, assuming that this is for him a commandment not to be with her, after all she was a married woman, and let's say he's not required to give his life up for that, then it's forbidden for him to give his life up. He's committing suicide by refusing. A halachic question. Furthermore, he was a servant to this master, that obviously that no one is going to take his side. You know what an eved, a slave, means in regular biblical terminology. You have no say in the matter, you have no opinion. This is like the good old style American slavery, right? I mean, no one wants to mention it, but yes, let's call it by name. So this is what he's trying to do. This is what she's trying to do. And not only that, the Gemara actually tells us that she was threatening him, that she's going to kill him. The Gemara says in Yuma that every day she used to make him crazy. And she told him, "Ashmali, listen to me." Omalo, he said, "Loy, I'm not." She told him, "I'm going to imprison you." But the Gemara says his response was what we say in the morning blessing. Hashem atir asurim. God releases the prisoners. And she said, "I'm going to bend your statue." But he says, Baruch atah Hashem, zokef kefufim. God is the one who erects, what's it called, who lifts up those who are bended. But she said, I'm going to blind your eyes. God opens the eyes of the blind. I'm going to give you money. And whatever he wanted to, she wanted to offer him. He did not want to hear. As the verse says, to lie with you and to be with you. And the Talmud says, and Rashi brings it, to lie with you in this world and then to be with you in the next world. Not interested. I'm not doing it. But she was, matter of fact, threatening him. And the Medrash tells us very clearly on this verse that the Medrash says that he came in the house was empty, and she grabbed him by his garment, and he wasn't afraid. He ran outside, and the Medrash says, and even though she told him, if you are not doing this, I'm telling my husband that you wanted to rape me. And she says, my husband is going to kill you, and no one is going to be able to stop him because you are his servant. And yet, nothing stood by him to give in to Hira Meshugas, what she expected him to do. That's called self-sacrifice. That's called Mesirus Nefesh. And the question is, according to Nigla, how was he allowed to put himself in a state of danger by standing in order to stand by the challenge? That's the question. The Gemara actually tells us that he got some support. The Gemara says in Sota. What was the support he got? And Rashi brings us in Chumash. Niras loy dmuz dikyoinoi shel ovi bachaloi. A picture of his father's image appeared to him from the window. And as the Gemara says, that the day that nobody was home was some type of holiday for those Egyptians. Everybody went to church, and she told everybody in the family, I can't go, I'm not feeling so well, I'm staying home. And therefore, nobody was home. And that's the day that she decided if nobody is home, it's the opportunity to take advantage of Yosef. By the way, it just tells you who they were. They were ready to leave a sick woman home. I don't understand that, but that's a separate story. They left her home, and because she pretended that she's sick. But at least they should have, from their time, from their perspective, they should watch it. But she was left home alone, and the verse identified. No man was there. The house was empty. And he was protected by his father's image, as the Torah tells us that he saw in his image that he saw the breastplate of Aaron, the priest, which is going to carry the names of the 12 Shvatim, the 12 tribes, and his father's kind of telling him, are you looking for your name to be deleted, to be erased from that breastplate? And the way that the Talmud learns that is actually by explaining the verse. It says, "Ve'ein ish mi'anshei bayit," that no man of the household people was there, but somebody which is not from the household was. That's the image of Yaakov. That's why the Torah specifically mentioned that nobody of the household people were there. What is that he saw the image? What is that he saw the image, and why couldn't he just remember it in his mind?
I thought you had said before in another lecture that he was to the point where he was almost ready to succumb. And then he saw his father's image, and that was enough to steel his spine, and
That's right.
Ran away.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, at some point, it was getting to a very difficult point, and his father's image stopped him. But the Rebbe asks on this Gemara, what's the idea of seeing his father's image? Could have been the same thing by remembering his father, remembering his mother. By the way, in the Jerusalem Talmud, it says that he saw his mother's image also. Rachel also appeared to him. What's this image of Yaakov? Rebbe said a very interesting explanation. A little mystical, but very interesting. He says that it says in the Talmud. The Talmud gives us a story that somebody visited Ma'arat Machpelah, the gravesite of the patriarchs, and he saw the image of Yaakov. And he realized, and he said that the beauty of Yaakov's appearance is me'ein shufrei the Adam Rishon. It's very identical to the beauty appearing on Adam's face. He saw Yaakov, and he realized, oops, this is the same beauty of Adam, first man. Well, obviously created in the image of God. You can imagine what kind of beautiful face he had. Just in parentheses, just a story. Everybody likes a story. The previous Lubavitch Rabbi, Yosef Yitzchak, after he was sent out of Russia, he decided to go visit Israel. 1929, the summer. The official reason he said, because in Russia he used to go pray always by his ancestors' graves in Lubavitch, the Maharash, the Tzemach Tzedek, his father in Rostov. Now he doesn't have any more graves, so he's going to go to Israel, to the gravesite of the Holy Patriarchs. When he came on the train from Alexandria to Israel, a Jew came up, which he used to see the previous Rebbes, and he brought a basket of bikurim, of ripe fruit for the Rebbe. He saw the Rebbe, and he fainted on the spot. And they revived him, tried to find out what happened. He says, I came in, and I saw his grandfather, the Rebbe Maharash, Reb Shmuel, the exact face. I fainted. Because from all the Rebbes, we have a picture, except two. We have a picture of the Alter Rebbe. There was a very famous painting which was taken when he was arrested. The Rebbes had testified that this is exactly how he looked. The second Rebbe, there is no picture. It's a Tzedek is also some painter to get that permission while he was sitting somewhere. The fourth Rebbe, the Rebbe Maharash, there is no picture. The Rebbe Rashab did not want a picture, never a picture, but by the revolution, he was in Rostov, there was discussion that he might go to Israel because there was a Turkish government who had their offices in Rostov. And one day they said that they are leaving. The war is coming here and they are leaving in Rostov, and they were ready to take the Rebbe with them. So he quickly made a passport. And then he walked out from the room after and he said, no, not going. I decided I'm staying. So there is a picture of the passport. In the previous Rebbe, a picture of the Rebbe obviously has pictures. Anyway, he saw the image of the previous Rebbe. He saw, this is the Rebbe Maharash, and he fainted. Yaakov says the Gemara of Basra, page 58, Yaakov's beauty was very identical to the beauty of Adam Rishon. What does he mean, just the beauty of Adam Rishon? What's the idea? So in the Ari, Isaac Luria in Kabbalah explains something like this. Adam, by the sin of the tree of knowledge, brought down and introduced to the world the idea of sin, idol worship, adultery, and murder. They were all introduced because of that sin, the sin of knowledge. The patriarchs, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, were involved in repairing those sins. Avraham, what was Avraham's main mission in the world? Publicizing God's name. And by publicizing God's name and bringing people around God and teaching about monotheism and the mitzvah to believe in God, that's how Avram repaired the sin of idol worship that was done by Adam. Yitzchak repaired the prohibition of murder by allowing himself to be slaughtered on the altar of the Akedas Yitzchak. That brought the tikkun, that brought the repair, the correction for the sin of shvichut damim, which means murder. Yaakov says in the Dari, he was the one who fixed the prohibition of adultery. How? He had a wife Leah and a wife Rachel, and his family was no issues. There was no Esau, there was no Ishmael. He kind of took care on creating a full, awesome family. There was no Hagar involved, there was no issues. And obviously the way he was standing here and not allowing himself to commit sin with Potiphar's wife. But basically, what happened was, says the Rebbe, based on this Kabbalah, that when Yosef was about to sin with with Potiphar's wife, he realized the image of his father. What did his father look like? Who did his father look like? Like Adam. What he realized was that my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, this is the family who brought about finally the tikkun, the repair, the correction, the fixing of that sin that was introduced by Adam, because my father looks like Adam. And bringing it all back to his mind, he said, no, I cannot do it. I'm not going to look for excuses. Meaning, halachically speaking, so to speak. From the perspective of halacha, you're right. He could have asked a rabbi, and the rabbi, in what we call, would have given them a heter. A heter means he would give them some allowance and say, listen, your circumstances. You are just a slave. You are dealing with a Potiphar. Pikuach nefesh. You gotta do it. If that's what she wants, you know what? Then you're gonna do tshuva. And then you're gonna eventually get out of there. You're gonna do tshuva. And you're gonna repent. And you're going to build a family. Don't worry. For now, you gotta cut your losses. And you would have been acting correctly from an halachic perspective. But sometimes it's behind the halacha. When you look at your father's image, who looks like Adam, and you realize the whole development and process which the family is going through for so many years together to bring some type of peace, some type of tranquility to the world by fixing what Adam has done. You Zayda ran around to teach about God. You other Zayda ran around ready to be slaughtered. You can't do it. You cannot do it. Not because it's halachically not kosher. I simply cannot do it. That's how I feel. That's how I commit. There is no way you're going to convince me different. This is what he'll explain in the Ari, and this is what the Rebbe explains is actually what was the answer to why was Yosef standing in such a position. First of all, it answers why he needed to have the image of his father. Not enough to remember because the image reminded him Adam. And it also answers why he wasn't following halacha, because it wasn't a halacha issue. This is a whole bigger picture, dealing with a bigger problem than just a technical halachic issue. This idea is very interestingly connected to Hanukkah. As we're going tomorrow night to start the holiday of Hanukkah by lighting the candles, we are going to also have a special addition in our prayers called the Ala Nisim, the benching, the prayers. And that addition is basically describing more or less what happened on Hanukkah. And one of the famous passages there says, Mosarto Giboiri mi'at chaloshim, you are delivered the mighty in the end of the week. The Rabbi mi'at me'atim, the plenty in the end of the few. Ureshoim bi'at tzadikim, and the wicked in the end of the righteous. Right? And when you look at that, I'm going to thank you for yourself. When you look at that, you think to yourself, same question. Who gave the Hashmonaim, a small, tiny group of a village in Modi'in in Israel, to go and to declare war against a mighty army like it? It was a superpower. Imagine, today, even Israel declaring war against America. My great grandfather, Amnon Bloy, once said it wouldn't be a bad idea, actually. Why? He said, he always felt that Israel should declare war against America. He said, either way, if you win America, so you're on America. If they win you, so you're under the States, so they take care of you. What's a game situation, right?
There was a movie out like
Mouse
that.
that roared.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Mouse that roared.
The mouse?
It's a small little country like Liechtenstein
Okay.
beating America.
And they become Americans.
That was the moral.
They all get footsteps.
That's what the Chinese felt, is that even if they were invaded, they would be able to absorb the people and turn them into.
Okay. So that's the idea of the year also. Who gave them the right? And the understanding is very clear that the Hashmonaim were on a whole different level of self-sacrifice. There wasn't sometimes, even Mesirus Nefesh, self-sacrifice has two aspects to it. There is the so-called the halachic self-sacrifice. It's when your halacha tells you you have to. And when halacha tells you you don't have to. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't do it, you're forbidden to it. Then there are situations which is above and beyond the letters of the law, which they call it. This has nothing to do with conditions. We are in a situation that we have to stop something from happening, and for that, there is no Shulchan Aruch, so to speak. It goes behind the Shulchan Aruch. It goes behind any calculations. And that actually was the inspiration, and it's actually being explained in many books. They talk about Hanukkah. They bring sources for this idea that they were pious and righteous, but all that was just to explain what gave them the motivation to do something which absolutely does not make sense. What comes out of that? Comes out from that is a very interesting halacha in regarding Hanukkah. What's the halacha regarding Hanukkah? We know that when you come to fulfill a mitzvah, every mitzvah, also according to Jewish law, has limitations of how much does a person really need to spend money-wise to fulfill the mitzvah, and at which point do you say, this is above and beyond, and I don't have to do it. So Jewish law clearly qualifies this concept, and it says that if it's a positive mitzvah, you spend a fifth of your belongings. Let's say if you don't have tefillin, and the only way you can get tefillin is to spend $500, and the only money you own is $500. Do you give $500 to buy tefillin? No. You don't have tefillin. I'm not obligated to get tefillin if I can't afford tefillin. But if you have $5,000, so then 20% from $5,000 is less than $500, right? So then you, so I mean, $500 is less than 20%. But then obviously you're going to spend it. The idea is still a fee. If it's spending money to avoid violating a negative prohibition, you can escape it by saving money, by spending money. In the halacha, you spend whatever you have, even sell your house. You shouldn't allow yourself to fulfill, to commit a negative prohibition. That's a rule. You can look it up in Shulchan Aruch, section 656. Tov Reish Lulav, but actually in the laws of Lulav, that's where it's being mentioned a lot. But it's in the Gemara, all debate in the Gemara. Why am I saying it? It comes to Hanukkah and wine for the 4 cups for the Seder. These are the 2 exceptions. Allah says that you have to get oil and wine. Oil for the menorah and wine for the drink. What happens if you don't have money? You go and you knock on doors and you ask for money. Or this is understanding the language of the Shulchan Aruch based on which is written in the Mishnah in Tractate Tzachim chapter 10. Or you sell your shirt off your back. And the obvious question that everybody is trying to understand, Manishtan, like every mitzvah, the halacha says what? That you shouldn't spend more than a fifth of your belonging. What is the exception of these 2 mitzvahs that you should spend even more than what the halacha requires? More than 20%, 100%. You have nothing. You only have your shirt. You give up your shirt. You knock on doors in your bag. You don't do it in other mitzvahs. What's the reason? So there's an halachic explanation, which I'm going to share. It's short, which is questionable, but this is what the halacha says. There is a concept in Jewish law that if you want to do a mitzvah and then you, for an unforeseeable reason, got stuck, you couldn't do it. The fact that you were ready to do it and what stopped you was not something which is under your control. It's not that you don't have to do it. God considers it for you as if you did it. Imagine, I want to go put on a tefillin. I'm on an island somewhere. I have my tefillin. I'm going to put it on this next morning, and lo and behold, somebody stole my tefillin. I have no tefillin anywhere. Did I put on tefillin today? Practically not. But the Torah says the things you wanted, and what stopped you is not because you were lazy or negligent or rebellion. You just were in a condition that has nothing to do behind your control. You couldn't do anything to stop it. A tsunami came, drowned you, it's feeling God for it. God said, oh, you really want it? I can see I think sincerely wanting it, but never. The check for putting on tefillin, you're getting today too. That's what the Gemara says. And that's why, when it comes to buy a mitzvah, and it's more than 20%, so the sages decided that more than 20% is like being in an unforeseeable, uncontrollable condition that, what should I do? I can't be stuck, I'm going to be on the street. So they said, more than that, God will consider it as if you did it. Less than that, you spend. This is what the halacha says. And that they explain why is it that Hanukkah is different. And the same thing, the 4 cups of wine. But let's talk about Hanukkah. Hanukkah, let's say you did not light Hanukkah candles because there was more than 20% of your belonging. And God will consider it as if you lit Hanukkah candles, right? But Hanukkah candles is not only the mitzvah to light it. Hanukkah candles, there's a mitzvah to publicize the miracle for others. It's an integral element in the mitzvah of Hanukkah. All the whole purpose of Hanukkah is to publicize. That's why it's after sunset, all this reason. So let's say God will count it for me as if I did a mitzvah. Bottom line, did people see the miracle being publicized for them? No. Right? So that which is an important element in the mitzvah cannot get accomplished by the fact that God counts it for you as a mitzvah. Comes to tefillin, it's for me. As long as it's for me, and God says, as long as you put in the minimal effort or the maximum effort required, I consider it done. We can consider it to be done. Because in God's calculation, I am wanting it, abling to do it to a certain extent, and they're not able, I count it for you as a mitzvah. But if it involves another party, and the party needs to see the publication of the miracle, what is it going to help them by the fact that God considers it to be done? Therefore, when it comes to a mitzvah like this, what is the halacha? You spend whatever you have. Spend everything. That's what they explain. This explanation is written by some sages. Rabbi Nezer, Rabbi Poland, and others. But the truth is a little challenging to accept it completely because there is also mitzvahs which have side accomplishments. And we don't require you to spend more than 20%. You know, the shofar. The mitzvah is just to sound the shofar, also to confuse Satan. Confuse Satan. So if I don't have a shofar, but I didn't have money to buy a shofar, and God will say, okay, I count you as if you bought the shofar. Is Satan going to get confused if there's no noise? Probably not. It's going to be challenging. So
they can't use a kazoo or something.
Right? So what's the word? So there must be some other reason to Hanukkah, but Hanukkah is unacceptable. There's a Hasidic answer. The Hasidic insight is as follows. That the reason why on Hanukkah you have to spend more than the requirements, because Hanukkah was a miracle which was above nature. Hanukkah was an unnecessary miracle, number one. You could have lighted the candles in impure oil, since the whole community was in a state of impurity. You could have found an halachic allowance to do it this way. The main thing is Hanukkah was a miracle which transcended nature. Oil for one night continued burning for 8. The fact that it transcends nature expects us to go beyond our limitations. If that's the holiday, we expect the mitzvah to be done also, not to be so boxed in 20%, 90%. You go for the whole bucket. You get oil, go sell your shirt and get oil. Drainage cup, knock on the door, find yourself oil. There is no excuse because the whole Hanukkah was not, considering the boundaries even of halacha, of nature. You treat a holiday which represents a supernatural miracle by conducting yourself above limitations. By conducting yourself among limitations. That's how you treat this Yom Tov. That's how you go about it. And that's the idea of Yosef. Same idea.
What about the wine? What about the wine?
Good wine.
Of
Pesach is also, it's a miracle. The Papa says the miracle of Pesach.
But it's for you, not for other
No,
people.
Rashi says in Psachim, that's, I didn't say that, I'm not going to go into Pesach, but Rashi says that the part of the drinking of the wine is also not just to celebrate, but to publicize the miracle to others. That's the same answer involved in Pesach.
Gotta come back in 5 months.
What?
He had to come back here in 5 months to class.
And that's the idea of Yosef. And that's the idea of Hanukkah. The idea that we are getting out of the limitations. Like it says by Yosef, the Gemara says that he ran outside. Ran outside. The Chassidus says, running outside, who you remember ran outside? God took him outside. Abraham. Same thing. He took him outside because under the limitations of nature, he couldn't give birth. Hashem raised him above nature. That gave him the growth. Huh?
holiday, that it's not in the Torah anywhere about this is gonna happen in the future, that we have to go up above and beyond to go ahead and establish this miracle on our own.
What is it?
We have to establish the miracle and publicize the
Sometimes,
miracle.
yeah, that's what we have to do because the whole thing was above the age. So that's what the halacha said. That's the answer regarding Yosef also. Regarding Yosef is the fact is that in you know he didn't ask questions. Because cheshbonaim, no questions. It's not a time for questions. The time to go above and beyond. Sometimes you have to seize the moment and go on above and beyond. And that he merited through the fact that he obviously was employed by the sight of his father. Who's the love it. Chassidim, there was value in imagining and seeing the face of the tzaddik, the face of the Rebbe. Like I said, even the picture that we have of the Alter Rebbe, this picture, you see here on this book, Lessons in Tanya, was a lot of effort done because the Shemach Tzedek, his grandson, heard there was a picture and he sent his son, the Rebbe Marash, and there was a lot to do. There's a whole letter by the previous Rebbe describing how much effort was put in to get the picture. So look at it. You identify with that. This is the image of your father, kind of, which inspires you. The previous Rebbe writer, he was arrested in jail. It wasn't easy for him. It wasn't easy. He started thinking about his family and Hasidim, and it became very depressing. And then he thought to himself, no, that all came by God. My kids depend on me, I depend on God. And he says, imagining my father's image, his father, Rebbe. And he felt all secured. The Rebbe once related that story. He said that the previous Rebbe is not sharing it as a story, he's sharing it as some suggestions, some advice. And a person sometimes feels on the down, feels on the, and you're looking for some motivation. So you think about the image. Baruch Hashem, you have so many pictures. And I want to tell you an interesting story what happened to me yesterday. As you know, this lately I'm writing down my classes. This is no one is sending it to me. This is something which I'm writing down myself. It's a little difficult in the summer, but in the winter when it's a short Shabbos, I can do it on Saturday night. Here, Mordechai Farkash, Bellevue, Washington. I'm writing it in Hebrew, and I'm even sending it around to a few friends. Yesterday, I organized it on Word. While I'm organizing it, I get a WhatsApp from a friend of mine in Russia, my friend Muncha. He sends me a picture of the Rebbe with the lulav, and he says, "Are you there on the right side?" I take a look. This is a picture of 1946. No, 1986. I'm looking 1986. I'm sorry, 1985. 1985. And it's me and him, my friend from Moscow. And I'm getting this picture. And I write him back. I have a WhatsApp. I said, I can't believe it. I'm just writing kind of an article. About Torah that I'm going to share a class about the picture which saved Yaakov. I'm also mentioning some stories about the Rebbe speaking about the importance of a picture. And now you're sending me this picture. I got like an approval from my class. Yeah, I'm sending to you. Let's see if you can find me. This is the Rebbe with the lulav by going around I'm on the left side of the top, me and my friend. With the black hat, the glasses. See me?
15. The black hat makes me stand out.
There you go.
Everybody else
There you
got
go.
black hats
Black
too.
hat.
Actually, see next to the Rebbe is the mental Futterfast, famous chassid. Very good picture, actually. I have it in
15
a
years
color.
old.
Ah?
You were 15.
Yes, thank you for giving out my age. So anyway, want to wish you all a good Hanukkah. Two announcements. Tomorrow night, Papa's having the miracle together. We will be at Redmond Town Center at 6 p.m. lighting the menorah, with song, with celebration, in a public manner. And then Sunday, 6:30 in the evening. Huh?
No, 6:30.
6:30 on Sunday, we're having a Hanukkah party here with a great concert celebrating Hanukkah with Simple Tzfat. So you're welcome to come and join us.
Thank you.
And Shabbos, obviously, tonight is the yard site. I want to mention Nancy Schneider, David Schneider's wife. That's the way the day before Hanukkah. May her soul rest in peace.
Amen.
She was a very nice lady. Sometimes came to my classes. Not
Not
bothering
very
me.
often.
Not
she
very
did.
often, but when she came, she did not ask too many questions. She was happy to accept, to listen, but I always say one very great values. Whenever we had the privilege to have it at our house or in shul, when she came for a service or for a kiddush, she never left without saying a very nice thank you. She made a special effort to come over and to say everything was great, and the service was beautiful, and it was delicious. But it was a very special value that I recall Nancy. May her soul rest in peace. May she be a good advocate for your husband, for your children, and now for your grandchildren also, to go in the ways of Torah and mitzvahs, and we'll be reunited soon by the coming of Mashiach. Speed in our days. Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Laila Tov, everyone. Me and you, China.
One quick question.
Yeah.
What time is shop?